Alright, I think we're live now. Yes, we are. Alright. Hey everyone, this is GeoWill from Productions². And we're back to do some more streaming for our Events Weapon plugin. Sorry for getting started a little bit late here, but today was truly Friday the 13th. Stuff today was stuff I worked as total total mess. Jeez, definite dreadstorm. Just because of some stuff from previous employees that they didn't do when they left, and that they did do when they left, and we're having to clean up the mess now that we've discovered it. So stayed 2 hours later today to work on all that. But here we are. So this morning we did a little bit of coding on the plugin. I kind of described some of the stuff I did over the last night to try and clean this up a bit. And I think we succeeded in fixing the window thing. It was just that we were opening a new window every time we were going through it, instead of just showing and hiding that one window we had created. So the previous windows were getting orphaned and stuck in memory and not accessible unless you were hiding them while they were inside of the instance of that window. So I pretty much recoded it so that the windows get created at the beginning and then hidden, and then we just show the same window and hide it and update it instead of creating new ones. And that seems to have fixed the issue with the refine window. However, as is the case with this kind of stuff when you do this, we broke so many other things, and we still are trying to figure out why some of the stuff is broken. So this is still from earlier, so set donor weapon undefined. So there's on line 841, which is this. So it's the status window. The status window is not being set or something for some reason. So what we need to do is we need to figure out if we're passing it through or not, first of all. And then second of all, if we are passing it through, are we passing through something that's not valid or what have you. So the creation, I also moved the creation stuff up so they're all in the same area so it'll be easier to deal with them. So they're all together up here. So yeah, that's the problem. We're not passing through these. We're not passing through the select window. Why would we need to do that? The window just needs it for something. Shouldn't have to be passed through. Create weapon list. I might have already fixed it but not tested it. Yeah, okay, added it here but I haven't tested it yet. So, or maybe I am testing it and it still doesn't work, and that's why I stopped there. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw just in case, we'll throw a breakpoint. No, up here so that we can check it as it's coming in. So, what Windows status? Here we go. Donor weapon list. So, status window statwind. Actually, let's put it after it so we can see what it actually gets set to. Then also put a breakpoint on the select so we can see if. Oh, that's why. Okay, that makes sense. The name is not the same. So if we go down here, so we got the donor list. This underscore status window is spelled out. The actual thing for it though is no. Never mind. It is status window. Never mind. I take back what I was saying. So let's go ahead and put a breakpoint here, and then we'll have a look, see at what's going on. All right. So okay, yeah, that's just from that. All right. So on synthesize. So I guess we won't do any leveling up of the weapons or anything. Okay, so here we go. Statwind is a proper value, weapon status window, or window underscore wep status, which is fine. And that's getting set to there, so that's fine. Active false, which is true. Go to next. Now we're going to select Ton of Darkness, and we're going to say Synthesize, and we're going to select the other one. So now we're coming down here, and it is... So maybe Set Donor Weapon isn't a function. It's possible. Let's see. So web status window, set weapon, not set donor weapon. So that is there, set donor weapon. And what are we calling it here? I went too far. Select. So we are calling it set donor weapon. No, that's what it's called. Okay. So then, let's just try it in here. This dot underscore is undefined. That is interesting. So we should be able to see the functions in here somewhere. Here we go. That's not its width. Underneath, I think it's in the proto. Yeah, here we go. So we have get weapon. We have synth info. No, yeah, it's true. Is the name? What about the? How are we? What about the window that's tied to? Is that tied to the right window? Web status window web status that prototype, that's a donor. No, it should be showing. So we have get weapon, we have set weapon. Oh, there's set donor weapon. Yeah, it is definitely there. And yet and yet this is saying undefined. Is the function name typoed somehow? Set donor weapon. SETW or SETDONOR WAPON. That's right. And SETDONOR WAPN was right. So what is undefined about this? It even shows that it's defined here. What the hell? But it doesn't like it. Undefined. Well, maybe it's because it doesn't return anything. Well, let's just go down to here and see if it even comes here. That does come down here, but DWEP is undefined. Oh, DWEP is undefined. Okay. So what is DWEP? That is the game party that get weapon. So selected donor weapon is not defined. So are we not setting that when we're doing that call? Because what should happen is when we do the select, on select this should be setting that through this. So this dot set selected weapon ID list. Well, the weapon ID list is not defined. Actually, that's because we're not in this context. Let's put a breakpoint there and put one here. And we'll refresh, restart, whatever you want to call it. I want to see what web ID list is. Something is not working there. It's kind of interesting though. It's saying that that's undefined, but it's not really undefined. It's the other thing that's undefined. So, well, we have to, start it first. Or actually, crap. That is what we want to do, because it is going to call this. So, it didn't even come to here. Build com list, which is part of the... So we're calling refresh on here. That's weapon list. I'm on the wrong one. I want the donor weapon list. So base weapon null, which is fine because we're not defining anything for that yet. Katana, synthesize. Now. Yeah, so once we go through all this, it's coming out to nothing. Why is that? That shouldn't happen. Because we're building this list up here, so that's, oh, we haven't set it yet, that's why. So the WEP list is minus the first element, which is right. First weapon. Well, second weapon technically in the list, but its index is 1. So that's minus the katana we have selected. That's fine, so continue. So now I'm going to click on it. So the WEP ID list is 0, 1, 2, and the index is 2. So, and the one we clicked on is 3, so that's right. So that's going to go to set selected donor weapon, which is just going to set the ID to that value. Or no, set selected donor weapon. Ah. Well, no, yeah. So the selected donor weapon is the ID, but we're also setting donor weapon to this as well. So we are actually pulling something for that. Let's actually put it there. So let's go ahead and follow that through. So it comes to here. So this becomes 3, which is right. And then this should get the katana that we were looking at, which it does. Then we come back out here, and we use that to go to here. And then we're passing that weapon to set donor weapon on status window, which is right. So we're passing through a weapon to there when it's expecting an ID. That's why it's coming up as what it is. So we need to come down here, and instead of passing through with the well, wherever it's at, instead of passing through with get weapon, we just want to pass through the ID of the weapon, and then the code over on the status window will actually pull the weapon from the game party weapons list itself. That was the problem. Because it was trying to, so what it was doing is it was taking the weapon object itself and trying to pull a weapon using that, and that's not actually an int, so it was basically failing. So that is probably why it was failing. I'm not going to say is why, but because of, fastest prologue, there's still going to be something else wrong with it, but at least for part of it, that's probably part of the issue. Okay, do that. Select that. We're gonna do this and this. Holy crap. So that was on the select. Just on the select. Alright, so we got something else now. Level is not defined. So let's go find where that's at. That's way down there. That's in the gold, the setup costs window for synthesize. So, what row? What line is 2552? So that's down here. So I wonder if it's this that's saying that it's, because it went down here, but I'm not sure if, like, if I select this. Interesting. I wonder if that's what where the issue's at here. So on the donor web level, and that's the first place it's used at. So are we setting the donor web? We do have a set donor web thing. Here's the thing there. Are we passing through an ID? Or are we passing through the bloody weapon again? So where are we calling this at? Well, actually it's gonna, well, yeah, we'll just have to go up and look, because it's gonna be called in a bunch of places. So the scene is after we select synthesize from the action pane, so that's going to be here. So donor, yeah, we're not setting the base weapon. We're saying the donor. We're saying the base weapon, but not the donor weapon. And that's what's going on. So we need to add in the right window this time, on line 5 something. We need to add in a call to this underscore web donor, not this one. Wait. Selection of oh no, yeah, wrong place. Below that on the select the donor select. Okay, now we're setting that. We're setting this. Get selected donor weapon, which is passing back the ID, which is fine. So okay, let's go ahead and head back down then to that line and put a breakpoint. Oh, it's already one there. Okay. Put one here, and we'll put one here as well. Actually, I'll put it there. See what we're getting in. I fully expected this meant this much trouble when I did the recoding. This was a major restructuring how the windows were built and called and had to be manipulated, so when you go in and do that kind of stuff, you're going to break lots of things. Okay, we don't need this. We don't need that. Take out any breakpoints we don't actually need right now. So choose that one. Synthesize. Get rid of these. Continue. Select that one. Get rid of this. Continue. And OK. Alright, get rid of that. Or no, we want that. Okay, so weapon ID is null. Awesome. So, why is it null? So, weapon donor window. Oh, weapon list, donor weapon list window, whatever it's called, this one. So, when we call get selected donor weapon, we're calling selected donor weapon. Let's put this here. Why are we getting a null back on that for? Set selected donor weapon. Oh. That's why. Why didn't that cause an error? Damn. Because it's a this, I guess. So you can define a variable with using this without having to actually define it properly. Which is, if you ask me, that breaks so many tenets of object-oriented programming. That's not funny. You shouldn't be able to define something without actually defining it. Or you shouldn't be able to initialize something without actually defining it. Because what this is doing, it's like, well, let's go, yeah, this is, set. So it's annoying to try and figure out where exactly stuff is at on this. So what we're doing with this is, we are in the select, not to select the set. We are, this doesn't exist anywhere else in this class. Instance of a class. It's only defined here. Well, it's only initialized here. It's never actually really defined. We need to change that to weapon, and that's why we're getting a weird value for. But that's also why this is working, because, well, actually, no. This shouldn't have been working. Okay. Now, let's see what happens. We'll go and disable all the breakpoints. Okay, there we go. Cool. That's working again now, so cancel. Alright, so let's go ahead and try actually doing this. I mean, if this is working now, if the actual window processing is working, everything else should work, because the underlying base code for these windows hasn't really changed. The only thing I've added in is to remove the passes of the weapon instances into the constructors, and then to create a function, well, 2 functions, possibly even 3 in some cases, to have the windows set up differently, and to pull the various weapon IDs that are stored on those windows out of them, and to update in other windows before we show them. But on the just to be absolutely sure that nothing is going to be stupid, we're going to try doing a full refine 1 synth and see what happens. Okay, there's the first refine. Now we gotta do the second. Okay, second refine, go. Alright, now we're gonna go back out and select this, synthesize, select that. The cost we'll need to figure out. Actually, no, the cost is what it should be, because we didn't, we aren't leveled up to level 10. I'm gonna have to make that a requirement, that you have to go to the max level of the weapon before you can synthesize it if you're going to. Alright, so now what's interesting here is that this didn't actually update. Or I should say, this didn't call the proper window. This is just the basic information window, the expanded information window, not the refined window, or the synth info window. Rather, not the synth window, I should say, or version of this window. Okay, yes, synth cannot be read. So let's go ahead and track this down. So it's on 191 of action pane. This .wep that is synthed cannot be undefined. So this wep is undefined. Which is interesting. So we'll put a breakpoint here and see what we're passing in on this one for set weapon. If we're even passing it through at all, because I think maybe we aren't passing it. Well, it should still have the previous version of it, just synth should be the default value, which is whatever it is set to in the game instance weapon object. So we got a couple things still to fix. Let's go back up here to... Actually, we can get rid of these. But as you'll notice, that didn't even get passed through. This didn't. And it might be because, well, no, it's still donor wep, isn't it? Maybe not. What is the variable name for the donor weapon? Nope, yeah, it's donor wep. And we are setting donor wep with an A. Awesome. So that's the problem there for that, I think. So it wasn't updating the window because it was going in there probably, but because the donor wep was not the right. Again, we were referencing a variable we hadn't actually created or defined yet, but we're instancing it because you can do that for some stupid reason. It wasn't that check wasn't passing, so it wasn't actually processing any of that. So it's on the status window. Donor wep. Okay. And then we had that other issue, which is interesting. So that's on the action panel, action pane, after we've said OK to synthesize. So synth OK. Set weapon this dot underscore weapon list wind dot get selected weapon. We're passing back the ID, passing that through, and then we are that's close enough. And then we are so set weapon, we're passing it through, and then so we'll put a breakpoint on 1918. Oh, we already have one there. Okay. All right. Let's have another look at that and see what's going on. So the name of the variable is correct. Wep. Something else is going on with that one. Alright, so grab 2. Grab some experience in gold, and then we will do our leveling up. Let's actually do let's turn off the breakpoints for now. So we gotta do a lot of work. We have to do a lot of stuff with the action pane, so it would be a pain, pun intended, to have that going right now. We're fine, and then the second one, level up. There we go. See, all of our stuff is showing up still properly now that we got the conditions right. Or got the thing passing in correctly. So we click on OK. Is synth really? So it's not calling. It's not actually even calling this set weapon. We're using set weapon, not set selected weapon, right? So on synth OK. Yeah, we're calling set weapon. This wep act wind. Dot set weapon. Very interesting. Okay. So let's just try without doing all that. I just wanted to make sure that was working. We won't need that for this. The leveling up, that is. And refining. We can just select and then do a synthesize right away. Oh, we don't have any gold though to try that with. So there, we'll leave that there because we'll need that. Okay, so we have our durability up by 10, attack up by 5, and then our bleeding and poison increases. Alright, so we definitely do call this. So what does this get us? We get 1, which is correct. So window set weapon equals function whip. So now we're in here, that's 1, it's fine, 1 to 1. Then we're using this WID.GamePart.GetWeapon. So let's actually grab this and make sure it's returning correctly. It is, game instance weapon. ID 1, that's right, ton of darkness. It's all correct. So then, what was it was this stuff down here. Is synthed. True. Okay, so action win.show. Activate and refreshed. So now let's do this ._whip, which is game instance weapon. Maybe that is synthed is wrong. SYNTHED. SYNTHED. True. Then we also call it down here. But it wasn't down here that was storing that error, I don't think. Oh, it didn't happen that time. Interesting. We also didn't do any of the stuff we did before. So let's go ahead and reset and disable those and do the whole level up refine thing, because maybe somehow when we do it that way we're invalidating something somehow. So we'll recreate the conditions that was failing in and then see what the values are as we're looping through that. This is the life of a debugger of code. Trying all kinds of things to make it fail. Okay, so level up. Because what might be happening is it might not be updating the last selected weapon. So in other words, it might be showing that it's that weapon 4 is selected, but when we come over here, since it's removed, this still thinks it's there and it's trying to, it's trying to access it, but it doesn't actually exist when it tries to pull it in. So that's what I'm thinking, is that the weapon, on the weapon list, it's not updating the selected thing properly. But we shall find out. It's like it's like when we go back to select this, I'm thinking that it's not actually really selecting it properly. But we shall see. Okay, yeah. Oh, crap, I didn't turn the breakpoints on. Okay, we'll try this again. Alright, paying too much attention to explaining what I think is going on and not enough into actually what I'm doing. which is not uncommon for programmers. Especially not when you've done this whole process so many times that you basically could do it in your sleep. I made it even easier by making these one click somehow. I think it's because I'm not doing a reselect or a select or something. Or basically because it's the same window now, we're not recreating it, that's why. We do need to fix the cult window still. We're not removing the contents when we're refreshing it, so it's just rolling over itself again and again and again. Alright, so there's that and that. So there we go. Now select this and turn these back on. Synthesize. So in this instance, it works because there's a value there, or the weapon is properly done. Okay, here we go. So, let's refresh it. So, weapon list when gets, so we're still getting a 1, so it is still 1, that's right. Coming over here. Wep ID is 1. So this is getting an undefined. Refresh. Why is this getting an undefined? WID is 1. Game party weapons array. That's interesting. So the third weapon is still there. So we're calling the wrong ID to remove. So it's legitimately actually a correct error. It's not a bug per se. Not a bug here. I mean, it's behaving correctly. Basically, it's saying that the weapon no longer exists because we removed it. Because down here we're not passing the right ID to remove. It should be the donor weapon ID. So how are we setting that donor weapon ID for a synthesized window? Should be a set donor weapon here somewhere. Okay. Base and donor. PWID, DWID. So set base weapon, set donor weapon. Are we re-initializing or setting donor weapon somewhere? I don't think so. Just up here on the set donor weapon. So donor wep. Donor WEP. Donor WEP. Donor WEP. So that's all correct. So where are we calling this at? That would be on the select OK. Donor select OK. So synth window, select set base window, weapon list window, get selected weapon, and then we're calling from the donor list get selected donor weapon. That's from donor list. So donor list gets selected donor weapon, returning selected donor weapon. Set selected donor weapon. Where are we calling that from? So set selected donor weapon ID list, this index, that's fine. That's the only two places it gets called from. So at some point, this gets set to 1 somehow. Apparently, anyway. We'll see what the breakpoints say, but it's what it looks like it's happening. That this is getting set to 1 somehow. So hit continue, it'll throw that error because because at that point in time there is no weapon with an ID of 1, and so it can't. The game party get weapon function can't return anything, so it returns I think a null or something, and we end up getting this error. So let's see what's going on with the synth window. Somehow the donor weapon is getting kind of messed up. So it only happened when we did the leveling up, so we'll do that. Could be something in there. Refine it. Yay! That caused it to freak out too. Alright, one problem at a time. Not sure what happened there. Maybe some leftover code or something. So we're hitting cancel instead. We hit the cancel instead of actually doing the right click out. The cancel has a different functionality. Alright, turn it back on. Okay, so set donor weapon, weapon ID. Yeah, so here we go. Set donor weapon, weapon ID is 1. This is what's going on here. We're setting the weapon ID to 1. So when we're getting down here, we're passing through to the donor weapon. So somehow I can find it again. Actually, it's up a bit higher. Somehow, at this point, on donor web select, somehow this is getting set to 1. So we're selecting the weapon. Let me see if on any of the cancels we're updating that window. Synth, okay, so we go back to there. What about refine? So action window, set weapon, passing through weapon list wind, get weapon, stat wind, So, oh, here we go. Well, that's the base weapon, though. That's what it should be. Get selected weapon. Okay, so when we're processing the list for the get selected weapon on the donor list window, we're splicing out the selected weapon, selected base weapon, because we don't want to show that in the list. What if the, how are we setting the, let me go back down, how are we setting the donor weapon ID? Are we passing through just the index, or are we passing through the value stored in the weapon ID list? That's like the only thing I can think of. So we are setting through the weapon ID list, unless the weapon ID list is not right. So let's put a thing there. We'll put something up here. Select donor weapon. And we'll be able to see if at any point this becomes 1 by doing that. Let's go ahead and do a refresh. So we have identified the issue here, and that's not it. So it's only when we're doing leveling up and synthesizing the, well, level up and refine and synthesizing the refined weapons that I've noticed this so far. So we'll go ahead and do that again. Refine it. Okay, so selected index is 0. This is it here. So the only weapon showing is so why is 0 still there? Because so we're going through. So once we click on it, so we come in here and we say build this list. So 1 and 3. Game part of ID, weapon level equals this and that, and is not the same ID. Create a new C item. If refine, then pull the refine and stick that on there. If not, do the regular thing. Push the new list item. That's if none of that matches. Now, if there's an else, we're supposed to be splicing it out. So weapon ID does not equal this underscore base weapon ID. The base weapon ID is 1. So it's not a new one. So that should be spliced out. So weapon ID 1. And apparently it does. However, so if the other two match, the ID is not the same. If the other two don't match, and the ID is not the same, all that will happen and splice the weapon list. Now, if those two match, same level and ref level, but the IDs are not the same, then we go inside of there and we add the element, which we seemingly have. The problem is this list is still one weapon too much. So, why? Because so we're getting the weapon ID. So let's see, the weapon ID is 1. Let's just go through this logically, how this works on this one. So it goes through first. Let's say the ID is 0. So that's not going to match any of that stuff. It's going to fall down to here. We're going to remove 0 from here. I think that's why, because now we come back through here now and we say, okay, the next one in the list is going to be a weapon with the ID of 1, which is the same weapon, so we're going to remove it. We come down here, and the weapon with ID of 1 is now actually a weapon with the ID of 2. So what do we do? Remove 2. Then we go through again, and we see that this weapon is the one we want, so we don't remove it, and we end up with the first weapon that we have selected, the base weapon, and the weapon that is selectable. And that's how we get this to happen, I think. And since this is going to be index 0, we're calling index 0 from this, and we get that. So how do we deal with that? So we would have, if we're removing something from, so we're removing an element from there. So we take the first one off. Weapon 1 becomes a weapon index 0. And if for weapon index 0, that means we have to have the ID where it starts at be the correct one. So I think what we have to do is we have to do a iterative for loop and have one iterative variable that gets iterated, and then the second one is just going to be a counter. So var I1, var I2. I2 will be the one we'll use to state what ID we should remove from the weapon list. So what will happen is that we'll go through here, we'll look at this stuff. If so we'll just actually go ahead and do this. What are we on? Line 800. It's around there, so we'll go look for that. So instead of this, what we'll have is this. Var I1 equals 0. I2 equals 0. I1 is less than game party Alright, so that part can stay the same. Now when we get down to here, instead of this, it's going to be I2. So what will happen is now is that, so let's say we go through the first time, I2 gets spliced. I2 is 0, so the first element gets spliced. So we go through again. This time, the weapon ID is, let's say we're actually using the 3 instead of the 1. So the second Katana of Darkness, not the first one. So, or better yet, let's say that Katana of Darkness is actually going to be the third weapon, and the second one's going to be the other sword. No. I was right, the other way around. So the way it's structured now with the list over here, just the Katana of Darkness being selected as the second one. So that already matches everything, so we go through and add that there. Then we need to iterate I2 by 1, because the next one we remove is going to be the sword, the second sword, which doesn't match anything. Any conditions, so we remove it. And then we don't iterate I2. And the next one is the selected weapon, so we remove that as 1 as well. I2 gets iterative, but it doesn't matter because that's the end of the thing. So I think we have to do that. When we do this, we have to do I2++. Alright, let's see what happens with that. Actually, it really shouldn't. Yes, it does matter because if we don't have anything here, then these all match. It would still, well, they would all match and they wouldn't have anything removed. It's only happening when we are doing the refine to do the synthesizing, because then we start removing things from the list, which means we call that section of code that we think is the issue. So we need to level up and refine. Technically, just leveling up would be enough too. Anything that would cause it to start removing things from the list will be enough to cause that to happen. But we're going to do the refine because I want to make sure that the other code is still working properly. Alright. So now I go to synthesize, select this. Alright, so we're getting the selected weapon. Continue. Continue. Alright, selecting it. Alright, so here we go. So we're into the undonor weapon select. And then, okay. And there you have it. That was the problem. Cool. We fixed it. And we can see that our stuff is, so we're on Refine 3. Our durability was increased. All our stuff down here was increased. This was increased. Cool. Good. It's working again. So now we can move on to the repair system. So first things first, we actually need to add weapon degrading. So what we need to do is we need to find the code that's called whenever we do an attack. So actually, in order to do this part, we need to implement the actors getting these equipped onto them. So I guess we need to tackle that first. So there is a function, I think we already aliased it, called change equipment. So remove party weapon. No, we didn't. I thought we did. Okay then, so what we'll need to do is we'll need to go to objects and maybe managers, but I don't think so. So what we need to look for is change equipment. Alright, so let's see, I think that's the one we want. I don't think there's a change weapon or anything. Change equipments, optimize equipments, best equip item, clear equipments. There's also some other things we'll need to work on as well, but there's a couple of places we'll need to deal with this at. So, so what we're doing here is we're passing through an E-type ID and an item ID. So the E-type ID is the equipment type, so it's, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever the number of equipment types you have, and then the actual item that we're going to be equipping. Now, the thing here is that we need to alias this, because not alias this, we actually need to overwrite it. Because, or, well, let's see, change equip by ID. So we want to be able to, for weapons, to pass through okay, here's what we'll do. Item ID will be the weapon ID number. So when we call change equip, what we'll pass through is a slot ID, and well, let's see what this actually does. Let's so change equipment, we call trade item with party. So basically we are taking the item we have equipped, and this equips slot ID. So what is this equips? Alright, so we have a filter, I think, or something similar. So we have this equips.map function item, so passing through the item ID. Or rather, no, we're looking for any equips that are items, I guess. Item.object, return item.object. So we are looking at whatever this actor has equipped. Will be this done item, so I don't think it's that. I think I might have gone, yeah, this is game action, when actor. Alright, we need to go back to change equip. Okay, so calling this dot equips slot ID. So I guess what we're doing is we're returning the equipment, then looking up the slot ID, and whatever the slot ID is, we're passing that through to this as well. So this one, is it nearby? Doesn't look like it is, unless it's up. Maybe it isn't. No. Alright, so let's see where this goes. Oh, it was actually right underneath it. Damn. Alright, so what we're doing here is we're taking the old item, which is what's equipped on the slot, and the item we passed through, which is the new item. So if new item is not the same as the old item, then so if new item and game party.has item new item is so if this is true, return false. So trade item with party, if this is false, we're skipping it. Okay, so if the game party doesn't have the new item, so it's kind of like a sanity check. We're making sure that the game party actually has the item we want to give to this this actor, and if it doesn't, then we're not doing it. Else, if it's true, then we're coming down here. Game party lose old item 1. Game party lose lose item new item 1. So basically, we're giving the game party item thing the old item, and then taking the new item away from it. Then returning true. So if true, then we are equipping the slot ID with the selected item that we passed through and refreshing. So let's check has item real quick. There may be something we have to do there for game party. So game party has item, and include equip. So include equip equals undefined, then include equip is false. If num item is greater than 0, return true. else if include equip, and this dot is any member equipped item return true, else return false. So we're getting a filter to see if there's any actor that has that weapon, that item equipped. That's interesting. So if they do, then what happens? So if a game party has it, and it's, oh, so that returns false, and new item is true, then return false. This is true, and this is true. But it doesn't seem like it does anything with the fact that the item might be on another actor. At least not what I'm seeing here. So change equipment. Call this back. So they're going to return true or false. Game party gain. Maybe it's in. Let's check gain item. Maybe there's something in here where we are, or lose item. I mean, where we're checking. No, it's just gain item. Well, this dot gain item. Lose item. Gain item, which we're calling. Okay, here we go. So gain item. Oh, we're calling gain item and then removing a thing with it. Gotcha. So now look at the container. This dot item container item. Item container is returning back any of this stuff. Okay. So if container, so once we pull back the container that the item belongs to, and it's valid, then we look at the last number, which is this dot num items item. Num items is here. Pass to the item. Var container equals this item container. Pulling that in again. Return container. Or return, so container or container item ID, or 00. Huh. So what is, I mean, this is like this, okay, so if container is, gotcha. If container is, well, no. Because then we have this OR here. Zeros. So this is the ternary part. Well, no, the ternary part's supposed to be with a semicolon. Well, let me see. Maybe JavaScript ternaries are different. I'm not sure if I've actually ever used one in JavaScript. JavaScript ternary. I kind of typoed it. Conditional ternary. So, okay, yeah. So, is member return this. So let's do a run real quick. Let's say this. Let's put a var test. So what I'm thinking is that if we do this here, if test isn't true, then we're returning 2. Yeah, but and then if we set this to like something like say equals 1. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So basically saying if container is valid, so if container is not a null or something or undefined, then if as part of that, on the true that this exists, if the container contains the item ID, then return that item, else return a 0 on true, or return a 0 for false if this is not defined. Okay. So we are returning, well, this is the last number. So that's interesting. So return last number. But we're just returning the item ID. Oh, because, okay, in the item ID container, that's not weapon, because we've changed the weapon container. It has just the ID and then the number of the items in it. We have instance weapons now on the weapon container, so that's completely different now. So, right. So we have to say is this, okay, so that's that, item out, because equip. So what we need, so items, what we need to do here is we need to override this. First of all. So on gain this, first we need to check if item is a game instance weapon. So if item instance of game underscore instance weapon. So if it's not a game instance weapon, then we know it's not a weapon, so we can just do this bit of it. Else. So if it is a game instance weapon, then we need to handle this differently. So, let's see. So how this is working is we're getting the item number and the amount, we're increasing it. So in this case, we're actually adding the item to, right. So in this case, item container. So item container. Oh, we're on the wrong one. That's why I didn't see it. Item container. So we pass through the item. If the item is not null, then we are running these checks. If data manager is weapon item. So let's check through this. I think we already have modified this over in our thing. Data manager is weapon. I thought I had. Includes. Oh yeah, here it is, right here. So if return item type 1, else if instance of return if item I type equals 1. So true. Else if it's an instance of object, return E type ID equals 1. So yeah, this is if we're gonna have weapons that are not part of the instance, the advanced weapon plugin. So we're just gonna have normal weapons. So that's something else we have to consider, is that we can't just blow away everything, because so whenever we do something that's going to be affecting that's going to be part of the plugin, we have to use this check to see if it's an instance of game instance weapon. That way, if it's not a game instance weapon, then if it's just a regular item weapon, game item weapon, then we can have that still being processed properly. So we're calling that from the item container class. We're getting that back, and return weapons if it's true. Back to our function that we have over here. Our gain item function. So then we return the container. And again, we want to make sure that the... okay, so true. We need to have a different container for game instance weapons if we're going to have them side by side. We'll need to think about how to deal with that. So it's going to require changing quite a bit of code. Well, not really changing a lot of code, but changing a lot of references to game party weapons instead of the new one. So for now, we'll kind of just leave that out. That'll be a to-do after the first version of the plugin. So checking if it's a game instance weapon. If not, then that's fine. Then if it is, then we need to so we're passing the... So we already have the item here. We just need to add it to the weapon list. This dot max items item. That's just checking to see if the number of items we have stored is the max amount, below the max amount. Don't need that for this because they're going to be storing only one of these per thing, per record, per element. So that's all fine. So really, all we have to just do is say. So this dot minus, so discard member equip item minus new number. So the last number, new number's last number plus amount. That's interesting. So this goes through each member and removes the item. So that's interesting. So if you choose to remove a certain number of items, and that's the number of items that's on the current selected actor and other actors, it'll remove that item until you reach the number you want to remove of from everybody. That's kind of interesting. I don't quite understand how... I didn't know that worked. Awesome. I can use the side buttons to go between the tabs. Nice. Did not know that worked that way. So, obviously, we would say game weapon. So game, or this underscore weapons dot add or push item, and then we would call this dot discard well, so here's the thing though, this is interesting. Discard members equip. Let's go back to that for a second. So this doesn't necessarily, unequip it from the actor you selected. Let's say that you have an actor that has a weapon selected on both of them. So, like, for example, let's say you have like the basic sword equipped on two different actors. This goes through per actor, and if the actor has it equipped, it's being removed. There's got to be a more specific one that deals just with unequipping or equipping items from the actor equipment screen on the on the equipment window in the menu. I think this is more handling the change equipment from the plugin command from the event. Change equipment. Still, we'd have to change this too, so this works, I guess. So I guess we'll set this up the same way then. So discard members equip. So item -1. Now, how are we doing the is equipped on this? So if contains item. So I guess it's just comparing the item to the one in the list, and if they match, it's taking it out. What about the other one though? There's let's see, where was that at? Discard. It's probably down. Or not. So we call that is equipped, and if it's true, then we are going to this. So what is this one? If so, eType ID and the item ID. Or no, down here, discard equip item. So equips.index of item. So we're getting the index at which this item exists at on the equips for this actor. Setting that to the slot ID. Slot ID is greater than 0, then we are setting that object to null. Okay. I think that should be fine. So, clear equipments. But that should be returning them to the game party. So clear equipments is equip change okay. So we have a slot ID. So if it's locked or if it's not locked and not sealed, then it's okay. And then we call change equip. Okay, which is calling that whole thing again, right? So that is what that's doing. So now there's one down there, optimize equipments. So equip slots.length. So I guess we're getting the number of slots that have. So equip slots. Okay, so we're filling the equip slots with these values here. I guess we're building a list of them. If slots.length is greater than or equal to 2 and is dual wheeled, then slot number 2 becomes 1. So I think we're basically setting the ID, basically setting the slot ID for what you can equip there. This would normally be 2 because it's a shield slot, but if you have a dual wield weapon, it becomes another weapon slot. Okay. Optimize. So then we're getting the length of that max slots, clearing the equipments, which is this. Then for every element of max slots, or for the length of max slots, we are checking if the change equip is okay. And then we are calling change equip I and this dot best equip item. So we're passing through a slot ID. It's fine. So game party equip items dot filter function item return item ID. So any game party item that can be equipped into that slot is returned, and if it can be equipped, best performance and best item null. For the items.length, we are checking the performance by passing through the item I1, or the item at the element that we're at. And then that's taking the item, we're getting params, and then calling params, and then we're doing a reduce function. Return A plus B. So damn. Not sure if I need to go higher or lower. I think I need to go lower. It's kind of closer, game troop. Okay, that's kind of stupid. So we were... Oh, it's actually not quite right. There we go. Okay, so we're calling this thing equip item performance. We're doing some stuff on here based on item.params. Function A, B. Return A plus B. So, item.params. So, I think we'll need to alias this, or not alias, we'll need to override this as well. Because we need to put a check in there for if it's a instance weapon item, then, or game instance weapon, then we need to do the underscore params. Underscore final params. Okay, so that comes back here to best equip. So, if performance is greater than best performance equals performance, base item equals items at that element, and then we go to the next one. So I guess it loops through here, and so every time the performance is greater than the best performance, we set the base item to the next item, so that whatever that item was, and then whatever item has the highest performance, we then send that back. to change equip, which is up here. So trade item with party, slot ID, da 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 da. So I think that's all we have to do for that part. Now we need to go to the window, the item window, and look and see what, actually it might be the scene actually. So, so on item OK, sound manager play equip, this done actor change equip, this dot underscore slot window index, and then the window item. Alright, so now we need to make changes to scene equip. So it'll be window equip or something. So create item window. Yeah, item equip window. Because instead of using the well, it's gonna be have to process differently because the weapons will be instances, not just items, and it'll want to load in like a number of items instead of the actual just instances. So it would cause an error, pretty sure. Especially when trying to equip. So we need to go to RPG Windows and look up equip window. Window item equip, or was it item equip window? Window equip item. Alright, so window for selecting equipment on the equipment screen. Set actor, set slot ID, includes, is enabled select list, or select last, set window status, update help, play OK sound. So, RPG Windows on line, I just want to put it down here on line 2455. So I'm going to see if it's actually coming to this window. So equip. Alright, so when we first go there, that's where it's going. So now when we select equip, from this, on item OK. So we're actually not on this part yet, I don't think. We're on the, well actually it is on that part because it created it. On equip command. So we're on the create command window right now. So on equip command, on command equip, slot window activate and select 0. So create slot window on slot OK. Item windows activate and select. Yeah, so we can see that our attack stat goes up, but we don't have anything to select out of here. So it's OK. Item window activate and select. So item window is the equip item. So over here, we need to figure out how it's drawing the list down here. So we're calling item list. Oh, we're calling item list. Window item list. Alright, so category is none. Data, set category. So are we setting a category on the slot when we're selecting OK? Window equip slot. So on select. Okay, so we have an actor. Update.call this item window dot set slot ID. So we're calling item window dot set slot ID. Okay, then we're calling refresh and reset scroll. But when are we calling the on the item window the set category to show what the item should be showing? What item should be showing there? Should be happening somewhere. So command clear. So unequip command on slot OK. We're just calling item window and activate. Select 0 and activate rather. So where's the category coming from? So we're calling activate and select 0. So actor is null, slot ID, factor is not null, set actor. So actor isn't equal to actor, then set the actor, refresh, reset, scroll. Same thing with slot ID. If it's not the same slot ID, set it, then refresh and scroll, reset, scroll. Oh, I bet you anything. Item window refresh. So make item list, create contents and draw all items. So first off, make item list. So here we go. Game party dot all items filter function item. That returns this dot includes item. So we were returning back the. Okay, we're returning back the list that contains the item that we're looking at. So where's item coming from? So that's on refresh. Make item list. So if this includes null, push null, that makes no sense. Okay, this data. Well, this is all items dot filter function item. This dot includes item. Create contents. So that's a window-based thing. So contents equals new bitmap. Okay, so you can call create contents instead of calling contents.clear. Then draw all items. So index, data index, item. Draw a name, draw a number. So this is where things are not showing up correctly because we're using a different thing on this. So draw item name isn't here. Okay, so we're actually passing it over here. So item XY width. If item is instance of game instance weapon, draw icon item dot underscore icon x. Draw text item dot underscore name. Else do those. So that's interesting. But there's nothing showing up here. And then draw item number. Which should still show 1. But I do also have it over here. So 104 and this stuff up here. So let's go ahead and put some breakpoints there and see what's actually going on in these functions. So that's setting up the initial window. This part. Actually, no, so it's not calling that for this list down here. That's interesting. Alright, so let's go back to the window. So, window item list. So 1985. I'm not seeing any other weapons either, just whatever that is. And so now we don't have anything here, except for that blank one. Alright, let's go ahead and restart. Alright, so what is item? Item is basic iron sword, which actually should be game instance item now. Delete all. So item is an object. Okay, that's interesting. So it is an object right now. After they're added, they should become not objects. Unless it's pulling it from somewhere else. Oh, the initial equips. That's right, the initial equips. We need to figure out where the initial equips are at and make that so that for weapons it turns them into game instance weapons. So initial equips. It's on objects, I think. So there we go. Game actor setup. Initial equips. Okay, here we go. Alright, so we're getting the equips. Slots.this equip slots. Slots.length equips. If less than that. So let's go to what oh, we have it here now. So if we save it and then we can just go over here and see what we're actually getting. I think it's going to be a list of game objects. Well, game items, but objects. And I think that we'll be able to pull the EID out of there to see what the ID is. So we gotta refresh this first. And then go to here and here. So actually no, it's just 1 1 2 3 0. So those are the IDs for the various initial equipments. So weapon 1, shield 1, armor 2, headgear 3, and then no accessory. Or something to that effect. So, let's see, this dot equip slots, max slots.length equips. We are then initializing them all to game item. So, well, it doesn't matter. We can overwrite the game item as long as we don't save it directly. Then again for equips.length, max slots, set equip. So we want to look at set equip. I don't think we need to alias this. Or not alias, overwrite. We have to overwrite the set equip, I think. Then get on the right bloody line here. Set equip. So we have the classes, a weapon or armor, and the item data ID. And that's all game item is, it's just that. So, So they don't consider if it's a dual equip weapon. So at least not here on this particular one. Maybe when you're going to equip other things, it does, but not here. So we don't have to worry about that here. What we do need to worry about is if the if we're on slot 1, or in this case 0. So we do actually want to. It is this one we want to alias. So if J is less than max slots, if J equals 0, then we're going to do something else. Do this. This dot underscore equips J dot equals, so and I believe that it's the constructor we pass things through to, and that'll kick off all this stuff. Well, yeah, but we have to pass through. We have to pass through the weapon type, the slot ID, and the instance. His B wep instance. So wep will be the ID, or well, wep will be the actual data weapon object. Wep type will be the type of weapon. So usually always 1. Or no, the weapon type, which is the okay, and then slot ID where it's equipped, and then false for that. So what we'll need to do is to first we'll need to get the var data weapon equals data weapon slots J. So slots, equip slots dot length. Equips. So here's what's interesting. We're passing through equips. And then, underscore equips, gotcha. So equips.length. So we're going through the equipment now, so yeah, it would be J. So that'll pull out the weapon that we have selected for the first element. The first element is always going to be a weapon. Then we need to then process that into here. So first we need to pass through the data weapon. Then the weapon type, so data weapon dot equipment item type. Well, we're broken here, so actually we can go ahead and check that. So, W type ID. That's what I want, W type ID. Weapon type ID. Data weapon, W type ID. Then we want to pass through the slot ID. So the slot ID is J as well. slots, yeah. And then false, because this is not an instance weapon, it's a data weapon. So that'll set that initial equip for weapon to a game instance weapon. Now let's see if it actually works or not. Or if it causes a huge, massive explosion of code. Alright, so go ahead and get rid of that. Data weapon is not defined. Because it's data weapons. Durr. And hopefully they're defined at this point. I mean, they should be. W type ID of no. Well, no, actually, no, it's not. This is what I don't get. Stuff gets called when it shouldn't be called. This stuff shouldn't get called when you're loading up this window. I mean, why the hell is it generating initial equips for when we're not even creating? We haven't even started a new game yet. There's just some really logical issues with how stuff is run that just irks me about this. Now, somebody from Interbrain or whoever the hell is working on RPG Maker now would like to email me and explain why things have to load like this before you even start a new game. Then maybe I will entertain that they're not pretenders that think they know how to code and don't. Where the hell were we at? Yeah. So I guess we have to do a check to make sure that there's actually a value here. So if if data weapon is not null, then do your stuff. Otherwise, don't. Yes. Okay. Same line. So, how? Data weapon dot W type ID. Let's put a breakpoint there and just see what happens. Maybe it's not initialized. I don't know. Oh, cool. Didn't even land there. Because no, that's on the right place. Weapon type ID is not. Oh, I had to say, okay. I guess when you restart it, they re-enable or something. Okay, here we go. So data weapons, we have it there. Okay, that's good. So now, why the hell aren't you getting any value from there? So, data weapon. Data weapon is null. How is it null? What is J? J is 0. Oh, right. Because, yeah, because obviously data weapons, the first element is null. So it's got to be +1. And I'd love to hear somebody explain to me from whoever is doing the coding for this now, why in the fuck there has to be nulls on element 0 for these damn lists. That's the other very annoying thing about this. Okay, 120. Oh, one other thing. Oh, the slot's okay. It's just, so wait, equips J. So that's interesting. So the initial equip they're putting into here is on J. And that's supposed to be the item ID. But that's going to be 0. So maybe it's initializing these to null at the beginning and then initializing to the proper values after. Again, that's just, it blows my mind that they do that because it's so unnecessary and screws up everything when you're trying to do things like this. Because then you have to handle if there's not a negative, you have to handle null values and such. Oh, hell. Okay. That would have worked if not for the fact that we were checking for nulls. But actually, this is a good thing because now we don't even need that check because I was going to pull the right thing. So that's a good thing. I tried to change the code in the console again. Alright, so now I cannot properly apply of undefined. What's going on there? So, game instance weapon initialized. So what? Game instance weapon is undefined. Because okay, so let's go back to our. So I'm thinking when we're actually doing the actual initialization on the weapons, it passes through different IDs, maybe. So let's go ahead and add that code back in, because I don't think at this point game weapons has been initialized or something, which is weird because it should have been technically, but. We'll return this back to J for now. Or actually, it's calling equips J. So let's do that instead. So that'll get us the value from in there, but at the same time, this is still not going to work because for whatever reason, our game instance, maybe we have to say new game instance weapon. Let's see how many ways we can just bork this thing. And damn. My mouse should like shock me with 10,000 volts every time I try to change something in the bloody console. Okay, so instead of doing this, it's going to be equips. And then we said try new to try and create a new instance of game instance weapon. I'm not sure if that'll work or not, but we will find out. Item.object is not a function. Well, we got past that part and hit another thing. So what is this at? Game actor equips. Item.object is not a function. Because in this instance, item is a game instance weapon object. So what is object anyway? What is this on? Objects 3600. Might be something we have to replicate in game instance weapon. 3600. Okay, so it's returning this. So wait. Oh, game item. Right. So we should probably put one of these into. Should probably put this down here into this. Obviously, So data weapons return this item ID. And that's being called from this on equips. So we are returning the game data weapons. So where did that get called from? Oh, we're not paused, so it's not going to show it. Okay, where is this calling from? So equips, traits. Oh, this whole thing. Scam actors equips, calling from all trait objects. So I guess we need to alias this if we haven't already. Or override it, I should say. Scam actor equips. So return item object. Is this based off anything, or it's just... No, it's just its own thing, isn't it? I didn't like initialize it based off of object or anything. Oh no, I did, yeah, an object. So maybe we could pass it back through here. Because we're returning item.object. Object is returning the type, the actual thing from the... so actually, is this setting the traits? So release init equips, release unequipable items. So we're going equip slots, trade on the party, then set object, equip slots. Okay, so we're checking to see if it's a dual wield. Which is calling up this huge tree of things that we were dealing with a while ago, and then I gave up trying to deal with. So trait slot type, game battler base. Traits.code, reduce. All traits, filter function. Trait objects, arcandcat object.traits, trait objects. Calls equips, which calls equips.map function. Rather filter function item, looping through items and then returning, we're calling item object. Which is throwing that error. Item.object is not a function. What's interesting though is it actually looks like it's passing through. So it's not passing through anything, we're just going through equips. This equips, which is undefined. This should be on the actor. This game actor, this. So it should be this underscore equips. So obviously this should be actor, game actor, but it's not behaving as such. So game actor, equip slots, game battler. So trait objects. So again, this is game actor this time. Then we return to game actor. This dot equips, and then when we go to equips, this is no longer. Oh no, it is game actor. Okay, that was weird. So now we have this. So game, yeah. So 0 is an instance weapon. So the first one we go through is going to check for instance weapon. We're going to see if there's an objects thing on it, which there isn't. So yeah, this is the issue here. So on equips. So it's returning the data to trait objects. Then for equips.length, item equals equips I. Equips I. Equals item. So we're calling this equips, which is returning that same thing. So item.object. That's being called on a filter though, isn't it? Yeah, so it's being called every time. So we're calling it, we're getting the first one, and then or something similar to that. So equips.length, I1, so we're setting item to equips. What is in equips? Well, it says it's undefined here, but oh no, this dot equips is undefined because we are building it here. No. Well, it says, let's see, here this dot equips actually has values in it. But then when we return to trait objects, this one doesn't have it, which I find interesting. No, it's there. This equips. We're calling this dot equips. Gotcha. Into equips, which we haven't done yet. So it loads in that entire thing into there. Then for each one we're setting, each time through the loop we're setting item to the actual equipment data here. Then we are calling if item, so if the item's not null, objects.push item. So we're pushing item into objects. And objects equals game battler prototype traits, trait objects dot call this. So this is basically a kind of an aliased function. Of sorts. Alright, then we're returning the objects back to game battler base all traits. So then we are returning concatenation of object traits. And then we are checking, then we're filtering based on the trait. If trait exists, then return the code, else return 0. Trait set. We are looking for R in trait. If rdoc and cat, or return rdoc and cat trait.dataid back to slot. And so R is null in this case. Or no, it's math apply. Game validator base dot trait slot type is being sent to trait set. That's the code. So we're calling reduce function R trait. Then return R doc and cat trait data ID. Then set, if set.length is greater than 0 and is greater than 0, then math max apply set null.set, and if that's true or false, set 0. So what calls that is dual wield. So if return this dot slot type equals 1. Okay, so we're trying to figure out if the slot type is 1. Slot type is determining if this is to determine if the shield slot is going to actually be a weapon slot or not. So his dual wield is a true or false. So yeah, we're just looking to see if the slot type is, if that trait is set. The trait for dual wield is trait slot type. I don't know why they called it that, but they did. And that's called from equip slots. So yeah, if this dual wield, so the problem is that up here we're not handling game item properly, or instance item properly, because game instance item doesn't have an item object thing in it. And in fact, all we really need to do is return, because technically what this is supposed to be is this is supposed to be an item ID, I think. And for weapons, though, it's not, well, return item object, which we have over here. So that's a game item dot object. So if this game item is a skill, return the data for skills. Yeah, we're returning the actual data. So the way this behaves is as if this is just an ID with a with a category. So for this one, since it's already an actual fully fledged item with data, we just need to return it. So if item instance of game instance weapon, then return item. Else call that. Okay, so now we have this dot underscore equips I set object is not a function, because again we're dealing with the so when we get back over here, because I1 is set object null. So again, that's part of the game item stuff. So what line is that on? Discard equip. So that's 3666. So let's go to this. So, okay, so here we're setting the type of data class it is. So, again, we don't really need to do this if it's a instance weapon, because we already have all that sorted out. So we need to do another override of this one. I knew the system was going to equip weapons onto actors. It was going to be a nightmare because we have to handle all this stuff differently. Because basically we're re-engineering how this actually works. No longer are we storing just item IDs for weapons, we're storing the actual weapon data itself. And so all this stuff with having to deal with equipping and unequipping has to change. Actually, we need to tab this over. Okay. If item instance of game instance weapon, actually if not, then do that. If it is, we don't care because we already know what it is. So only if it's a game instance weapon, we don't want to do that. No. Is it the same thing? Nope, different place. This one's on game actors. Release unequipable. God. It's just like all this stuff we have to change. Like I said, really complicated plugin. The potential conflicts list is going to be a mile long because all these functions are going to be in it because they're all overridden. They're not aliased because we need to actually change something on how it functions, not just add something to it. So on this one, so this dot equips if this dot underscore equips I instance of game weapon, game instance weapon, so once again, if it's an instance weapon, we know what it is and we don't care about this stuff. Semi-refined prototype got called. Well, we actually got to the to the title screen. Damn, that's an achievement. Now something else will explode when we click on this. I almost guarantee it. Holy crap, it didn't. Yes, here we go. Okay, now we got something. The provided double value is non-finite. So create linear gradient. So fill rectangle. So we need to figure out what's coming into there and where it's coming from and why. Changing what we did. This happened before when I did all these changes before and I couldn't figure out why. Well, we're gonna try and figure out why now. All right. So well, we got a bunch of undefines. That's for sure. That is for damn sure. So vertical is undefined. Grad is undefined, which is fine because I haven't been set yet. Vertical, though, it should be passed in. So where are we calling this from? Where's the, so draw gauge. So vertical is the last element. It's the last parameter, yeah. So draw gradient fill rect, color 2. Really? Well, no, we're not passing through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's fine. That's only if vertical is defined. So if it's not defined, we're calling this. So x is 342. X plus width is nan. So width is an issue, so it's the third parameter. Width is coming from draw gauge, draw actor HP. So width is here. So width is width or 186. Okay, that's kind of interesting. So we're passing through width as a 186 here. Through actor HP. But it's coming over here as 186. Okay, that's fine. And then we're calling fill width. That's what it is. Okay, so fill width is y, which is that. Wrong one. Math.floor width times rate, which is nan. So rate is the fourth parameter. And rate. Actor HP rate, which we're getting as nan because why? Probably because we're not setting it correctly. So HP is nan, MP is nan. I'm not seeing the rate anywhere near, but it's probably like a parameter or something. So let's go to HP rate. So that's this HP divided by this MHP, which are both undefined. So we need to go to the actor set HP, set MHP, passing through. So where do we call this from? It probably has to do with the fact that we're it's probably trying to get HP values from the weapons, the parameters, and since we're doing it differently, it's trying to get the values in an incorrect way for the instance weapons, and that's throwing in an nan, and it's just wreaking all kinds of hell or something. So I'm going to go through that. So new game. So it didn't even call that yet. That is interesting. So they're nan because they haven't actually been populated yet. So base draw actor simple status. So game actor. Okay, we're already here. So game actor on initialize, what does it do? Alright, so we're setting up these values here, calling setup, set up skills equipment, clear param plus recover all, set up images. Looking for where the health and stuff is set up. Well, this is actually a thing of game battler, so it might be set up there. So release unequipable items and then call game battler refresh. And that's from game battler base, where we have all this stuff at. Alright, so HP1, MP0, clear param base, clear buffs, update state turns, erase buffs, Where are we setting the HP and MP? Param base, param plus, param min and max. Param rate, game battler trait param, param ID, param buff params, X param, S param. So we're calling trait sum. So param base plus param plus. So param plus is this one, param plus param ID. I mean, it should still initialize as a 1 HP though. So, here we go. Look up here. So, param plus. Which is param plus. Value this param rate. Just game battler based trait dot. So traits PI. Traits with ID. Code ID. General trait value. All traits. Trait objects. So this dot states. So states dot map. So we're getting all the states from the data states, and then we're looking up all that stuff and seeing if we have any traits that have that ID, and then encode them. We're returning the value of the trait times R, which is the rate. We have to be populating these from the equipment. Somewhere. So let's put a break here on 2451 of objects, and then we can look at the stack trace. Maybe that'll show us where it's coming from. Okay, so game actor setup, initialize, equips, refresh, refresh, refresh. Then it's calling get MHP. Params 0. So let's do a watch. Close all this out. This is game actor. So about this dot params. So param base. Is undefined. Which is why we're having this issue, because this isn't getting set. Okay, so param base. So param base current class dot params param ID this level. So that's all the places they're at. Okay, how about dots params? So let's see, game instance weapon. So let's see, that's the equip performance. So item params. Again, just param base. Param ID. Okay, so this dot current class, the params from that param ID return this level, and then that returns this param base value. Returns that value for param base. Okay. Data manager, set up new game. Game party, set up starting members. Reserve transfer. Frame count 0. So game party members for each function actor ID. If game actor's actor ID is not null, then actors to actor push actor ID. This. Okay, so then when we call so anonymous, game actors.actor, so actor ID, data actors, actor ID, this, if this data, so if there's data for the actor, equals new game actor ID. So we're calling the initialization, so he calls initialize, and then calls setup. Alright, so actor ID, actor name, nickname, profile, class ID, level, initial level, images, experience, skills, equips. So init equips. We go through all this, and then refresh. So it's interesting that none of this other stuff is getting called. Like we're not seeing a call to this equips over here. So we're going to refresh. Which is calling the battler refresh, which is calling battle base refresh. And then this stuff is NAND. So we're getting back 1, 0, and 0. Then we're calling get, and we're going to battle base param. So, not available. Game actors undefined. Oh, data. So game actors data. Still don't see any base params. And the HP is NAN, MP is NAN. So what I think I'll do is I'll do some more checking on this off stream and tomorrow, and then if I figure it out, I'll do some more streaming and we will continue. But I think we need to figure this out before we can continue, because we need to get the we need to be able to see the equip screen to actually try any of this stuff. So that'll be the stream for tonight. So thanks for watching. If you watched it live, for watching on YouTube afterwards, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. I will see you maybe tomorrow if I can figure this out, and if not, then it'll probably be on Monday. If I can't figure this out by Monday, then we'll put this one on hold and start on the Compendium plugin. Or wait, was it the Limit Breaker or Compendium? Well, we'll do the Compendium. We won't do the Limit Breaker. That one's going to be a lot more. Oh no, it's Compendium. Good. So the first item is the 1 0 based. Yeah. They're targeting non-programmers. It's like with Microsoft targeting non-computer users, making everything stupid dumb. Locking off the admin account and making you like literally jump through hoops and have to type in ultra secret command line commands to unlock the actual administrator account. I remember that in Windows 7 originally. Maybe they still have to do it, but maybe it was Vista, where you had to actually go in and enable the administrator account to actually get into an real administrator account, where you could actually change some of the more admin related settings. Anyway, so we'll have to figure this out. It has to. There's no way it doesn't relate to the way that it's processing the traits on the weapons. Because somewhere in here, it's trying to pull the traits in from all the equipment so that it can set up the base parameters and all that stuff, and somewhere it's you would think it would throw an error somewhere, but I think we've established that code in this thing doesn't always throw errors when it's supposed to. Need to figure out where that's happening at, why it's failing, and figure out how to fix it. That's just going to take a lot of digging, and I don't want to do any more digging on the stream. It gets kind of boring after a while. But once we get this figured out, I can have a clear shot through the durability thing. We'll just need to figure out where the actual attacking happens. That'll be in one of the battle scenes, I think, probably. And we'll have to probably put a new parameter into the tag, weapon tag, that will have a value to remove, like a multiplier for removing durability per hit. So some like 0.0025 or something on there. And then we'll have to use that for that. So we'll have to create some new member in game instance weapons, and then pull it into the note tag code to set it. But I think we are going to be fine for that, because that's a little more straightforward than this crap is. So yeah, I will maybe see you tomorrow. If not, then on Monday, and we will see what happens.